Joining us on the line, Raywat Deonandan, an epidemiologist specializing in global health at the University of Ottawa. Welcome back.
Thank you very much.
What do you think about that news today?
I think it's the right thing to do. Absolutely. We have to roll out those booster shots. We have to maximize and optimize whatever immunity we have in the population. We're sitting on millions of doses. We've got to use them.
So we're starting with this age group, but there was an interesting question that was asked, which is, why don't we do what the CDC has recommended? They've recommended giving boosters to all adults 18 and above. We're not doing that yet. He was suggesting we don't want to overwhelm the system. Are we falling behind there?
I see his point. We may not have enough doses right now. Our booking system is not optimized to handle that level of activity. But ultimately, we're going to have to open the doors to everyone, absolutely, and probably the sooner the better. In the meantime, we have other tools to control transmission. And for those who aren't eligible for booster shots, I hope that they are taking the steps to control transmission otherwise, like wearing a high-quality mask and being in well-ventilated areas and things like that. So, yeah, I think Dr. Moore is right on that front.
I got to tell you, not to get us off track, Raywat Deonandan, the amount of times that I've seen people with baggy cloth masks that are hanging down around their faces and they're still not properly fitted. And I just think to myself, oh, come on. We're 20 months deep into this. How do we not have the message on that?
Oh, 100%. I think part of the problem is much of the public health messaging is still stuck in what we call droplet dogma, meaning they're convinced that this disease is transmitted via droplets. It's not. It's transmitted via aerosol. So COVID is airborne, which means you need a close-fitting mask to better control it. An N95 or that quality of mask, absolutely.
Why is the 6-month marker so important? Why are we saying to people, wait until it has been 6 months if you're 50 and up to go for the booster?
It isn't that important. It's kind of a not arbitrary cutoff, but some of the data suggest that a number of months after the second dose is when we have diminished inflammation and probably the biggest bang for your buck, a better immune response if you're boosted then. So don't get boosted a couple of weeks after, a few months later. But it's debatable whether that should be 5 months, 6 months, or 7 months, or 8 months even. So preferably, I think it should be 5 months because some countries do use the 5-month limit, and the faster we get more boosters into our arms, the better. But we've chosen 6 months. And so we're going to stick to that decision, as arbitrary as it might be, for administrative purposes.
Well, what do you think? Do you think they will revisit that? If we look at the Omicron variant, and again, I want to be very clear that we just don't really know yet, and we're waiting on that. But clearly we're trying to pick up the pace, wouldn't you say? You know, if Delta was a race car and it looks like this is very transmissible already, we're trying to keep up and slow down any potential spread of Omicron. Would it be worthwhile to say if you're at 5 or 5.5 months, go ahead, get the booster?
Yes. However, you are limited by the slowest aspect of your system. And our system might just be the booking process. And it might also be the amount of doses that we have available.
Or the people that we have to put the doses in arms.
Exactly. So a lot of moving parts here. I have to have some faith in the administrators to roll this out accordingly. It's not solely about the epidemiology. It's about the health systems and our infrastructure to deliver the stuff.
So what about Omicron? What is your initial understanding of what we know so far? How would you characterize this variant?
Well, first, we have to divide our knowledge into two categories. There's the laboratory knowledge and the epidemiology knowledge. The laboratory suggests that it's scary. It's got 32 mutations on the spike protein, and the spike protein is the license plate by which our bodies and the vaccines identify the virus. And so if that's being obfuscated, then there's a chance that the vaccines and our bodies won't recognize it and won't keep it out. But the epidemiology is yet to come in, and the epidemiology tells us exactly what proportion of vaccinated people get sick and die. It tells us exactly how quickly this disease moves through unvaccinated populations versus vaccinated. We don't know these things yet. So there's a lot to be unpacked. I'd be really surprised if our vaccines weren't at least a little bit effective. And frankly, I suspect that they're going to be significantly effective. I think it's guaranteed that Omicron is going to diminish the effectiveness by a little bit, at least. The question is by how much. So vaccination remains our best step forward to get out of this. And the faster we can vaccinate the world, then the fewer Omicrons we'll have emerging in the future.
I did really appreciate the clarity from Dr. Kieran Moore today when he said, Yeah, we really don't know, but we're trying to dampen the effects of Omicron. He also talked about the 5 to 11-year-old age group. 12% of them now have a dose. How significant is that?
It might be huge. It actually might be a bit of a game changer. As one colleague puts it, the children might be the dark matter of this pandemic that's been moving things along invisibly. In Ontario, about 7% of the population is in that age group, and we are stuck at about 78% of the population vaccinated. If all 7% get vaccinated, that takes us over 80%, which is extraordinary. It takes us in the realm of Cambodia and Spain and the UAE, who are doing quite well, in Cuba, who have got a good handle on this disease. So it could be a game changer.
How long do the boosters last?
Okay, nobody knows, but the virology and the virologists suggest that it might be just a 3 and done. It might be a 3-dose vaccine, assuming no further variants emerge. So much like our hepatitis vaccines and other vaccines for other viruses we have in our systems already, it just might be lifetime immunity for just these 3. But nobody knows, so don't take that to the bank. I wouldn't be surprised if we get another booster in a few years, if this thing is still roiling then. But we'll have a different landscape by then. That's pretty much guaranteed.
Well, and I want to speak about that because I think right now we're getting into a bit of a frenzy, and I understand it's human nature. We're looking to the future and it's very uncertain. So we're wrapped up in anxiety right now because people are kind of spiraling thinking, well, if this is the Omicron variant now, and then we get a booster or we get a handle on this one, what if another variant pops up? And do we just keep going through winter by winter where there's a new variant and then in the spring things die down again? Is that what we're looking at here?
Not exactly. All pandemics come to an end. Even if we did everything wrong, this will come to an end in a number of years, just like everyone in the past has. It's just that we want it to come to an end faster and with the least amount of suffering possible. And we do that with strategic vaccination campaigns. So ideally, if we can get vaccination into much of the world, then fewer variants will emerge. And frankly, this still is an epidemic and a pandemic of the unvaccinated. So as that number of people diminishes bit by bit, then the severity of the epidemic will also diminish. What we got to do is have a global effort to just push vaccines into every corner of the world. And in the meantime, get high quality masks into every corner of the world and ventilation to slow transmission so that more variants do not emerge. But variants will continue to be a threat to our system. But the more immunity we have in the population, the less of a threat it will be.
AKA, to get out of this thoroughly, we have to think of ourselves as a global community. It's not just Canada has good vaccine coverage. It's other places in the world as well, which is kind of a tall order.
100%. It is a tall order, but we can totally do it. I mean, all it takes is political will and a decision to spread the resources accordingly. We make all kinds of stuff all the time. Why not this?
This is the part of the conversation where you declare that you're a stupid optimist, right?
I present to you possibilities.
Uh-huh.
And it's up to the world to act on those possibilities.
Yes. If you'll be the cynical, no, you'll be the optimist, the stupid optimist, and I'll be the crotchety cynic over here. Do we have any sense right now of when the pandemic starts to really peter out and we're looking at the endemic stages, or is it just too soon to say?
Well, endemicity will be experienced differently in different parts of the world. You define endemic as the constant state of transmission in a defined geography. So here in Canada, we might have that sometime in 2022, probably will.
Right.
Globally, it's unlikely that this is going to stop for a couple of years at least, unless we do that enormous political thing and push vaccination around the world. Or maybe Omicron or something like it is so transmissible that the world gets infected and recovers quickly with a lot of suffering and death that leaves in its wake immunity. Any number of things can still happen.
On that very positive note, I'm going to leave off our conversation and head to the news. Raywat Deonandan, thank you very much.